All right, Shawn, you want to tell me about yourself?
Yes.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up on 11th and Hoover in Los Angeles, California. I was born in Hollywood Presbyterian Hospital, May 10th, 1956. I'm an only child. Always went to parochial schools. During the summer, I had summer care at the same schools I went to. I was never allowed to play with the neighborhood children.
What was your family like?
My father was Irish. My mother was English. She was a technical editor. My father was an electronic engineer. It was a middle-class environment. We didn't dress really nice, but we had all the things like for school, books, a lot of learning. We kind of lived in a crappy place, but...
That was a mixed neighborhood at the time?
Yeah, a lot of Mexicans, a lot of Latinos.
Okay.
And I really don't particularly care for them either. I can't stand that music. It just, woo. There wasn't any drugs in the neighborhood then at that time. Then everything was pretty cool at the house. My father died when I was 16, and that was the end of my childhood. And that was the death of my prince. When my father died, my life went. I was looking for affection and love in all the wrong places. I discovered all the bad boys that went to like Belmont, Berendo, all the bad schools that you hear about. Discovered sex, not drugs. Drugs weren't my thing at that point. My mother kind of caught on that there was something strange going on at the house. She got another job to replace my father. So she was at home from 7 o'clock in the morning until 11 o'clock at night. And this was back in the 70s, early 70s. So I took good advantage of that. Boys, more boys. Of course, I always did very good in school. And that was how I got rewarded. I got books and got to go on trips and not as much discipline, not as much watching me all the time. Then I went to USC and I kind of got back on the straight and narrow. My father's Social Security and veterans benefits paid for that. And then my mother bought me a car. I was 21 years old. Ooh, didn't have a job. My mother supported me, bought my insurance, And so I discovered boys, but not any boys, black boys, because USC is full of wonderful football players. And I like them black and I like them buff. So I stopped going to school. I got a job full time at the vet. And that's where I met the baby's daddy, as we say it now. He wasn't into drugs at that point, but he soon discovered crack. And that is when I got pregnant with my oldest son, and he started beating on me. I became his private punching bag. So eventually I got a restraining order and went to prison, and that was the end of that. But that made life worse because then I had discovered crack and I knew how to get it. I knew how to rock it up and I knew how to do all these things with it. But I also had to be a mother. And I wasn't a very good mother. I'd rather spend the week at the Hayes Motel on Jefferson Central than take care of my own children. So this habit I acquired for crack was devastating, not only to my physical and mental and spiritual needs, but I ignored my children. And soon I was just like a cracko. But I had to keep it on the down low because I still lived at home and I still had my boys, and I had to keep it quiet before they told their other grandmother. And then one time they did, and she tried to take the children. So one thing led to another, and I got a co-defendant, an A-Tray gangster crip, and he knew how to rock it up. He knew where we could go get it. And so it was just more convenient for having him to go do it. I'm a very lazy drug addict. I'd rather have you go get it, bring it home, put it in the pipe, so I don't have to do any work. Well, I had always resented my mother because she never got to let me say goodbye to my father when he was dying. And at 16, that's very important to a young girl, especially since I was an only child. And so it got to be that the violence, you could see it like bubbling like a volcano, that it was going to erupt. So one morning, I asked her for like $50, $60, something like that. And she told me no. And she had never said no that emphatically. So my co-defendant says, well, where's the money? I said, she told me no. So he had bought a 357 type of gun during the Rodney King riots. So it was in the house, but I didn't know that the night before we had stayed up all night smoking, that he had prepared a mask to put on, a mask, piece of duct tape to put over her mouth, so when he commenced to doing whatever he was going to do, she wouldn't scream. We had the gun ready. So when she told me no, I just kind of sloughed it off, and then he broke in her room because she lived downstairs, and I didn't really stop him when he commenced beating her. And because I was still so angry about her not letting me say goodbye to my father, and instead of being a loving daughter, I was just wanted money and I wanted dope, and I really didn't care what he did. So we ran away from the house, went down to where the Crips hang out, the 83rd and Western, where the original Rodney King riot had started. And we hid out there for a while. And people always asked me, didn't you miss your mother? And I said, well, I was actually glad to get rid of her. I didn't have to listen to her scream and holler and yell and all kinds of things. It just irritated me. Being high on drugs, you just want quiet. You just want people to just give you your stuff and leave you alone. And it took me a long time to get over that. It took me a long time to realize that I had brutally slain and murdered my own mother.
You did it, or your?
Well, we both kind of did it together. He actually shot her while I held her down. So, push comes to shove, it was a 50-50.
You had that much hatred for your mom?
Yes. Because she would not let me say goodbye to my father when the last week of school, I went to Catholic school. She wouldn't let me go see him, and I thought that was very strange because I always went to go see him after school. And she goes, not this week, they're doing tests and stuff on him. But my girlfriend's fathers were ministers, and they had gone to see him, and they knew that he was dying. But they told their daughters not to say anything because it must be a reason that my mother's not letting me go see him, So I had that much anger, that much resentment towards her, because he was my prince. He was what kept my sanity in that house. It was always me and my dad that hung out. My mother was like a pledge, I'm trying to say it, like someone that didn't even belong in the house. Her personality didn't jive with, my dad and I were real happy-go-lucky and all that, and my mother was always so serious and always criticized my dad and yelled at him, and I resented that because that's what I thought. He died of cancer, and later on down the road they discovered that stress can cause cancer. So I assumed that my mother did it, and I had a lot of unresolved issues from also, I didn't particularly care for her mothering skills, and so I kind of copied them. I yelled at my kids, and I didn't pay attention to them. So it was like one generation following the other generation. So I went to prison, and I was sentenced to 16 to life, second-degree murder. And of course, all it got loose in prison that I had killed my mother, and they really, it took me a while for them just to leave me alone. Not that I used any anger. I just didn't acknowledge their existence. I just ignored their stupid questions. I ignored their statements. And I went through life in prison like that for a long time, like 15 years.
For murder.
For murder, because I murdered my mother. And then I wondered why my children didn't want anything to do with me. Well, it didn't take a genius to figure that out. You killed their grandmother. And my middle son, to this day, has not forgiven me for my mothering skills. He really could care less that I killed his grandmother.
Were you using drugs at the time?
Oh, no, I was high as a kite. But he was mad that I did not mother him according to him, how he thought I should be mothering them. I used them as suitcases. I drug them all over town. I got money. I would go ask my mother for money. We're going to go do this, that. I kind of used them like a bartering chip so that I could do things that I wanted to do. But eventually, through a lot of soul searching, remembering that my mother didn't have to have me. My mother didn't have to do any of the things that she did for me. I went to USC, for God's sakes. She didn't have to do any of that. And so I learned to think of her in a different way. I learned to think of her as she did the best that she could do with what she had. She was raised during the Depression. And let me tell you, my grandmother was a piece of work. She was very, very conservative. She made sure that things were run the way she wanted them to run. This was her third husband that, of course, that she had outlived. So she was the head rooster, the head. And so she did things, my mother did things the way her mother did, and then I did things the way she did. So it was like a generational, we didn't communicate with our kids, we just told them to sit down, shut up, and never gave them a reason why. Well, eventually you hear the old story, God came into my life. You hear this from everybody that goes to prison. But in my case, I had been to parochial schools all my life. I knew there was a God. I knew that I was certainly not obeying his rules and certainly not behaving the way I was supposed to be. But eventually, he slapped me in the face and said, if you ever want to go home and see your children, you have to behave in a different manner. You have to think in a different manner. You have to address people in a different manner. You have to be nice to people. You have to accept them for who they are, not for who you want them to be. And so that took me a good 5 or 10 years after I did that. So that was why I spent 27 years in prison on a 16 to life sentence, because I did not say or do what the Board of Prison Terms wanted me to say and do. But fortunately for me, I was a big girl, so no one really bothered me much in prison about violence and beating me up. And because I kind of hung out with the lifers, that we had our groups, and we showed compassion towards each other, but anybody outside our group, no, we did not. Eventually, my children started coming around. My oldest and my youngest son came to visit me in prison. Oh, what a wonderful day. They cried, I cried, everybody cried. And they were going to Loyola High School at that point. So the sisters, made a big thing about them seeing their mother. And that I had finally come around, and Anthony was just so proud of me that I was no longer just asking for things because I thought I deserved them. I would ask for things because I needed them, or I had earned them, or I had a job for PIA. I really didn't need money. I made sure that I was situated so I didn't have to take anything from them. But before I went into prison and when I got arrested, I wanted everything. I wanted people to give me everything. So my whole thinking had to change in order for me to become a better person, in order to face freedom when I got out. I've been out less than 3 years. I have a job, as I was telling you. I have a place to stay, and my 3 of my boys are back in my life. I just got accepted into the church that they go to. I'm getting baptized April 1st. Things are going good for me in a spiritual way. I just can't leave the crystal meth alone. That is my one thing.
How many years have you been using it?
Well, on and off. I snorted it in prison, and I didn't like it because it made me tweak. I mean, I took things apart that I couldn't put back together, and I'm usually not that type of person. I don't like to take things apart. I really don't even like oil and nasties. I'm a really girly girl. So I quit that, and then I discovered smoking it. Ooh, I want smoking it. It's wonderful. Stay up all night, you know. Oh, the sex is wonderful, you know. But you have to come to that point that all those are superficial things. You're destroying your body. I have COPD. I have no business smoking crystal meth. You know, I have no business smoking cigarettes because you can hear it in my voice, that raspy smoker kind of coughing and talking, but I just can't quit it because it keeps me calm, and I don't understand why, because it should not keep me calm. It should be just the opposite. But I'm thinking that I really try. And then working down here, on the street I work on, they sell crack up and down all night long. I don't even like the smell of crack anymore because it gave me that 27 years of no kids, no freedom that I wanted to do. You know, you have to sit and clean out your locker if they want you to move. You're under someone else's constant supervision.
Do you blame crack cocaine for why you committed that murder?
Hell yes. I would never have done anything like that. I mean, I wasn't particularly fond of my mother, and I used to call her a bitch to her face all the time. But murder is very different. And my father was around, he controlled us. He kind of, now you two, Shawn, go to your room. And Clara, leave her alone. She's 15 years old. God knows how many hormones and all that other stuff is going on. And you want to tell her to be what? Be quiet.
How old were you when you murdered her?
25. I was 16 when he died. And I think that was definitely the beginning of the end at my house because
He stabilized everything.
he made everything okay. He kind of made Christmas okay. He made birthdays okay. My mother hated Christmas. She thought birthdays were a waste of money. You know, she wanted new books. She wanted to buy me new books, which were expensive, but they were for school. Screw the new dress or if you wanted to look like everybody else. I was always feeling inferior. I was always feeling like I didn't belong because I didn't look like everybody else. I'm a big girl. My mother would keep my hair like short, and I just think she made me ugly on purpose. She'd buy me dresses that didn't fit. It was just like the older I got, the more I would analyze it in a negative way. I didn't realize how hard she was struggling to keep me in private school, to make sure I could go to these museum trips and make sure I could have all these added educational bonuses. I got a car when I was 21. You know, there's not very many kids here. Mother says, what kind of car would you like? I said, I want that blue one. Drove it right off the lot. I didn't have to pay for gas. I didn't pay for my own insurance, nothing. It was just like everything was given to me with the understanding that I behaved the way she wanted me to behave. I got good grades in school. Didn't bring the wrong kind of boys home. The first black boy I brought home, I thought my mother was going to have a heart attack. And you can imagine when I had Anthony, James, and Patrick, the first Anthony, I thought she was going to have a hernia heart attack. But, you know, life changes her. Those were her babies. You didn't talk about them. You didn't say they were anything bad about them because they were black. You know, it was like a learning experience for her. It was like God was trying to teach me to accept my mother through the way that she accepted my children. And it took me a long time to figure that out. It took me a long time with why did I have those children? Why did I have my sons? You know, why did she love them so much when sometimes I doubted she loved me? But the violence that I had towards her was I was so angry and so upset with her for keeping me away from my father. I didn't care if he didn't understand what I was saying. I just wanted to be in his presence. And then when we buried him, oh no. I didn't like the suit. I didn't like the coffin. I wanted a pillow. I wanted him to they fix their makeup. I mean, I went crazy. Because that was the only way I could show how I felt. Because I didn't know how to communicate it, but I could show you how I felt. But I couldn't tell you how I felt. It was, and that was before I started using drugs. And after I started using drugs, I really couldn't communicate. Because what was the point? I had the money to buy the drugs. I usually had a boy that would help me go buy them. So what did I need for? What did I need to be nice to them for? You know, it was just the way I functioned in life because that was the way I got what I wanted.
Are you able to be functional as a crystal meth addict?
As a what?
As a crystal meth addict?
Yeah, I'm okay with that. My oldest son and my kids aren't really into drugs at all, so they really don't catch on to what I'm doing. Now my landlord, he knows the hell when I sometimes. He goes, Shawn, are you okay? He goes, you're acting funny. And I said, I'm okay. He goes, why are you so dehydrated? I said, I take all those pills. So I have to calm him down once in a while.
Do you go days without sleep?
No, I sleep. Well, I do now because I work this weird shift,
No,
but I can't stay up days.
But crystal meth will. Crystal meth can keep you up for days.
Not me. I can go to sleep. I can take a hit and go to sleep. Because my body is so opposite because of...
Your ADHD?
I think it's my hours. The way even with crack, could go to sleep.
Sometimes people that are ADHD on crack...
I think, yeah.
On crack, it'll behave differently.
Yeah, I have a little behavior, because I take Prozac. So I have, those, what do you call it when you can't stand noises? AD, it's not attention deficit, it's like I can't, like sudden noises. People crack bubble gum or pop that bubble wrap or, do something that makes a sudden noise. It scares me.
You're jumpy.
Huh?
You're jumpy.
I'm very jumpy. And people notice that. My God, Shawn, you're scared? I said, I don't give a fuck. The noise bothers me. And I like things the way I like them. I want a man, but do I really want a man? No, because never on time. Don't do what I want to do.
How old are you now?
I'm 66. I'll be 67 in May.
Looking back at your life, what would you have done differently if you could?
Well, I would have appreciated my mother much more. And I would not have gone as crazy, perhaps, if I had known that my mother couldn't help the way she was raised. Because my grandmother couldn't help the way she was raised. And it's a generational thing. My grandmother was born before the Depression. My mother was born during the Depression and lived on a farm. No TV, but she had a radio and she loved her radio. It's just that she was so completely opposite of what I liked and what I like to do. She was an exercise nut. She liked to walk everywhere. I hate to walk. It's just the little things. It was like she was trying to mold me the way she wanted me to behave, the way she thought I should behave. And then she would give me like a car. Mother, I don't know, that's awful bad to give Mother a car. Because I can have sex anywhere now, And that was my thing. It's between, I usually find boys or men that I like to have sex with, but they usually use drugs. So, but at this point in time, I don't need them to buy my drugs. I don't need them to buy anything else because I know how to do it all myself. But I want them to be on time. I want them to call me when I call them and leave a message. I want them to behave a certain way, but they don't because they don't have to. Because they're whores too. They're all men whores. And once you start investigating them, oh, Lord have mercy, they're really men whores. And they know how to twist it. I go out with this one now. We had broke up when I lived in Venice, and Didn't have anything to do with him. Came down and saw me on Thanksgiving, where I work now. Oh, telling me how much he missed me and adored me and blah, 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 blah. Within 2 weeks, we were smoking crystal meth.
Have you only
Again.
dated black men?
I only go out with black men.
You've never tried any
Oh,
else?
yeah, a long time ago. But it doesn't do anything. It doesn't, because they don't want to put up with the bossiness. Sometimes the black guys will put up with the bossiness because they always know they're going to get some money. Yeah, I'm kind of a,
Is it really about the money for them?
oh, yeah, it's an expensive habit. I buy $100 at a time. I don't buy no $20. I'm not going back there. I buy $100 at a time, and I'll maybe smoke it for a month because I don't share my dope.
But the guys you're dating,
The guys I'm dating, oh, I'll give them $100 and they go do something with it. I don't care what they do. Yeah, I've gone to sleep at their house for like 6 hours. The phone's ringing off the hook. Again, they have message the thing. Oh, so and so, tell so and so to call so and so. His Facebook page is full of whores.
but are they just in the relationship with you for the money?
Probably, but we both work at the same place. But he's got children and he has to pay rent. I don't pay $75 a month rent. I don't support my kids. They're in their 40s. I don't have to. So I just worry about myself. And sometimes he's cool, sometimes he ain't. But I tell him, I said, don't fuck with me, because I murdered my mother does not mean I won't murder you. So I best not catch you in my face fucking these bitches. You know? She goes, I never heard you talk like that. I said, well, you treat me like, you're never on time. I call you and you never call me back. That's rude. But I put up with it because I'm desperate for a man. Because I really don't like women that much. I don't know, I'm just twisted, kind of a twisted sister.
Shawn, what would you say is the most important lesson you've learned in your life?
Depend on yourself for all your needs and go to God, because He is the only one that will keep you on the straight and narrow. In my book, in my opinion, other people have other things that they do to keep them on the straight and narrow. I like to crochet. I like to act like an old lady, and I got 2 cats, and I crochet, and then sometimes I stay up all night smoking crystal meth, because it's there, and it calms me so much. I'll be like, oh my God, I can't wait to get home. One more homeless person asks me for something, I'm gonna kill him, I've had 5 phones stolen, because I'm not used to watching my things so much. I'm kind of lackadaisical.
You work down here helping the homeless?
Mm-hmm. And I'm getting sick of that because I make $20 an hour doing that, and that's the only reason I do it. Because some of them are very sweet, some of them are very compassionate, and some of them are very caring. But the rest of them, they all want something. They all want something. They want to get you before you get them. And so I can just see it when they ask you for something. Sometimes they know that I know. So they kind of make it in a circle. Like, oh, are you going to eat that? Oh, no, I'm not. Here. Oh, are you going to use that? Then they get bigger and bigger. When you say yes to, let's say, an orange, pretty soon they want what's in your bag, or drink your water, or eat your chips, or whatever, something so small. But that's not the way life does me these days. I work hard for my stuff. And I work hard to stay clean and sober when I'm around my kids. I've discovered that church is almost as good as crystal meth for calming my nerves. Almost. And I try to, my oldest son is so proud of me for being out of prison, having a job, having a place to stay, And he says, may not be much, Mother, but it's your own. So, he sells real estate, has a Tesla. He's like my road dog. Because all my friends, these guys, have seen him, with a Tesla. Where'd you get a Tesla from? I said, that's my son's. He sells real estate. He lives in Lamarck Park. God damn, son. He's very successful. I said, yeah. Well. He's almost whitewashed. He's so successful. I just have a lot of strange ways about thinking things, about thinking about things. But if I exclude God, oh, I'm worse. So I always have to keep him, God, the things I've done and he's forgiven me for and let me go on with my life. I don't even deserve to be alive, I don't think. Because sometimes I can be a terrible person. I'll talk to people any way I please. Because what? I got the money. I have the power. You know? It's the way I was brought up.
All right. Shawn, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Did I do what I was supposed to do?
Yes, you did.
Oh, okay.